Welcome to the deep dive. We pull out the key insights from, well, often a whole stack of sources. Today, we're looking into a really, truly heartbreaking case. It brings up some profound questions, about childhood, about responsibility, and maybe the unseen reality behind some curated images we see online. We're talking about Kaylee Jade Priest. She was just 3 years old, living in England, and her life ended tragically. This deep dive, it's going to go beyond just the headlines. We're drawing on police reports, witness statements, even social media stuff to really unpack a story that's much more complex and devastating than it might first look.
And our mission here, it isn't just to list the facts of what happened to Kaylee. It's about trying to understand why it matters so much. I mean, this case, it really forces you to confront some deeply uncomfortable truths about how we protect children, or maybe how we fail to, and how easily their suffering can just be hidden, sometimes right in front of us.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, our goal is to try and distill some crucial insights, foster a deeper understanding maybe. It's going to be a difficult conversation, obviously, given the material. We'll be looking at some detailed, pretty somber stuff, including the autopsy report, but hopefully there are vital lessons here. So let's start with Kaylee herself. She was born January 31st, 2017. To anyone looking from the outside, she seemed like a bright kid, really lively, playful. Her nursery teacher said she was always happy, rarely cried. She just gave off this vibe of coming from a living home, thriving, really. And her mother, Nicola Priest, she got pregnant with Kaylee when she was just 19. She played a big part in that public image. Nicola liked making TikTok videos. That was her hobby. And often Kaylee was in them, dancing with her. It looked like this, happy, modern mom and daughter thing. And they got praise online, positive comments. People had no idea what was really going on.
And that's the core of it, isn't it? That jarring contrast, the public face versus the private reality. It makes you really question how something so awful could unfold behind that kind of curated facade. It's not just about misrepresenting life online. It's almost like the performance itself became a barrier, hiding the abuse in plain sight, maybe even reinforced by those positive comments. It forces us to ask, what kind of vigilance do we need now?
That's a really chilling point. Yeah. And the culmination of all this, the tragic end, really started on August 8th, 2020. That afternoon, Nicola took Kaylee to a local park. They were there for about an hour, Kaylee playing, before they went back to their 2-bedroom flat in Kings Heath, Birmingham. Now, that evening, Nicola's new boyfriend, Callum Redfern, he was 22, he was visiting. Nicola apparently really wanted this relationship to be serious, saw him as maybe a future husband, and it seems she prioritized him, his affection, over, everything, including Kaylee. So the evening starts, some of Callum's friends come over for a bit of a party at the flat. But then around 7:30 p.m., after the friends had gone, Nicola tried to put Kaylee to bed. And Kaylee, like, any 3-year-old sometimes, she was restless, didn't want to sleep. But instead of comforting her, Nicola and Callum just got frustrated. They had a discussion that went back into Kaylee's room. And it was then they committed the assault that led to her death. Sources say they physically attacked her until she lost consciousness or died. And what's just awful is the delay in getting help. Nicola didn't call emergency services until around 11:00 p.m., nearly 3.5 hours later. She claimed Kaylee had just stopped breathing, but when the paramedics got there, Kaylee's body was already rigid. Her lips were blue, signs she'd been dead for some time.
That window of time, between roughly 7:30 and 11:00 p.m., it's just critical. Earlier intervention might have saved her, but that delay, it speaks volumes. It wasn't just a mistake. It suggests a complete disregard for her suffering, a chilling indifference while she was dying. It suggests they were maybe trying to figure out a story, cover things up, rather than save her.
Yeah. And the initial story they gave the police was exactly that, a fabrication. They claimed Kaylee had just repeatedly banged her own head on a table until she passed out. But the police, they didn't believe it. They brought them in for questioning. And during the interrogations, the truth started to come out piece by piece. Both Nicola and Callum eventually admitted assaulting Kaylee. Though typically they blamed each other, neither claimed they intended to kill her, but the violence they used, it was fatal, no question.
But investigators, they didn't stop there. They built up a much bigger picture, a pattern of abuse and neglect. You mentioned the park visit earlier. CCTV from that afternoon showed Nicola barely interacting with Kaylee, not touching her, avoiding eye contact, not responding when Kaylee called for her attention. It's like public indifference. And then there was financial abuse, too. Evidence showed Nicola used welfare money meant for Kaylee to help buy Callum a BMW. Just shows what the priorities were, her child's needs versus keeping the boyfriend happy. And perhaps the most disturbing part, the chat logs. From July 24th, just a couple of weeks before Kaylee died, Nicola messaging Callum complaining Kaylee was naughty, too noisy. She actually texted she wanted to kill her. She admitted hitting and punching Kaylee for things like being in the kitchen or messing with diapers. Simple kid stuff. And Callum's response, not shock, not concern. He encouraged her, texted back, do it for me. And Nicola replied, I will do it for you. Chilling. Then just 3 days later, Callum messages Nicola saying he's fed up, tired of Kaylee, basically implying he didn't want her around. These aren't just, angry texts. They show this escalating intent, this shared dynamic of abuse. It's a digital trail you would have had years ago.
Yeah. God, it's sickening. And witness accounts backed all this up, painted an even grimmer picture. Neighbors often heard shouting, Nicola and Callum yelling at Kaylee. Then loud music would suddenly blast, probably to cover the noise. The people downstairs heard Kaylee crying a lot and loud thuds from the flat above. Sometimes Kaylee was just seen neglected out in the hallway. Friends of Nicola said they saw her hit Kaylee and then just ignore her, stare at her phone. One friend described Nicola slapping Kaylee hard just for asking for food. The friend felt so bad she gave Kaylee snacks herself. Even Callum's own friends saw him threaten Kaylee at an arcade, threatened to put soap in her mouth just because she was being playful, being a kid.
And all these accounts together, they're so important. They show how this wasn't a one-off explosion. It was a pattern, escalating from maybe neglect and emotional abuse to outright physical violence. The loud music, the crying, the public indifference. These were all red flags, weren't they? But somehow, tragically, they didn't lead to intervention in time. It raises questions about community responsibility, too, doesn't it? When do people step in?
It really does. And the state of Kaylee's bedroom when the authorities found it just reinforces the neglect. It was a bare room, no curtains, no carpet, no proper bed sheets, not even light bulb. They described it like a prison cell. Not a child's room at all, just a stark reflection of how little care she received. Okay, now we need to talk about the autopsy findings. And just to prepare you, this is incredibly difficult to hear. It details the sheer brutality Kaylee suffered. The report said her injuries are comparable to being hit by a car at 40 miles per hour or falling 3 stories onto concrete. There were over 60 distinct injuries, 68, I think, head to toe. Broken ribs, multiple broken ribs, a fractured lower leg, a fractured sternum, extensive bruising scalp, chin, back, arms, abdomen, legs, a huge bruise on her left chest. And it was those chest and rib injuries that caused her lung to collapse in pneumothorax. That led to respiratory failure. She would have vomited multiple times from the severity of the beating. It was an agonizing death.
It just underscores the immense suffering she endured. Prolonged, torturous pain. Inflicted by the very people who should have been protecting her, nurturing her. This wasn't quick. It was slow, agonizing, unimaginable brutality.
And the legal outcome. Well, Nicola and Callum were initially granted bail. And during that time, Nicola posted a TikTok apology video. It was widely condemned, seen as completely fake, maybe an attempt to sway things. Ultimately, they were convicted of manslaughter, not murder. Nicola got 15 years, Callum got 14. They'll be eligible for parole after serving 2/3 of that. There was understandably huge public outrage. Many felt the sentences were far too lenient for what they did.
And this case also highlights a massive systemic failure, doesn't it? Kaylee's own grandmother, Nicola's mother, she had actually reported concerns about Nicola's parenting to the authorities before this happened. But those warnings, those concerns, they weren't acted upon effectively. A missed opportunity, a huge one. It shows a potential disconnect in the system between community concerns being raised and actual protective action being taken. We need systems that are more responsive. To really understand the scale of what Kaylee lost, what was taken from her, it helps to look at it through the lens of children's rights. Specifically, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the CRC. It's this key international agreement adopted by the UN. Nearly every country has signed up to it. And it outlines fundamental rights based on 4 core principles. Kaylee was denied every single one.
Right, let's quickly go through those. The first is the right of survival. Basically, kids should have proper care, health, nutrition, safe living conditions from birth. Kaylee had none of that. Not even basic comfort, let alone safety.
Exactly. Then there's the right of protection. Children must be shielded from all forms of violence, abuse, neglect, physical and emotional. Kaylee suffered the absolute extreme violation of this right. Horrific violence, profound neglect.
Third is the right of development. Kids need access to education, basic care, support to grow physically, mentally, socially. Kaylee's environment, that bare room, the hostility, it actively crushed her development, stifled everything.
And finally, the right of participation. Children have a right to express their views, to be heard, to get information. Kaylee's needs, her cries, her very presence were ignored, dismissed. Her voice was just silenced. Brutally. The whole case is just this horrifying illustration of those rights being completely trampled.
It's just staggering. This bright little girl used as a prop for TikTok likes, while behind that screen she's living and dying in absolute terror. It forces you to ask, what are our priorities? As individuals, as a society, how do we make sure we value actual human life, especially a child's life, over appearances or someone's selfish desires? How do we really protect kids who depend entirely on adults?
It's a huge question. And maybe it comes down to something captured in that quote. Every child deserves parents, but not all parents deserve children. It speaks to the immense responsibility of parenthood and the absolute tragedy when that responsibility is not just ignored, but completely betrayed. Parenthood isn't just biology, it's a commitment. A sacred one, really.
It really is. And maybe that's a thought to leave with you, our listeners. Consider our own roles, maybe, in safeguarding children, whether as parents, family, neighbors, community members, advocating for their rights. Prioritizing a child's well-being has to be paramount. It's a collective duty. Thank you for joining us for this very difficult, but we feel vital deep dive. Facing these hard truths is hopefully part of how we learn and prevent future tragedies. If you found this discussion valuable, please do like, share, and subscribe to The Deep Dive. We aim to bring you more explorations like this, helping you stay truly informed.
Yeah, stay vigilant, stay empathetic. The children in our communities really do depend on it.